Supermodel Chrissy Teigen grew up knowing that her mother's roots stretched back centuries in Thailand. But her father's side of her family tree was a blank slate. We set out to fill it in and found an incredible story. It begins with a record in the archives of the state of Washington.
Name, Ruth Helen Hornbaker. Father's name, Richard Schaefer. Mother's name, Minnie Heller.
This is your grandmother Ruth's death certificate. Have you ever seen that before?
No.
Well, this document is important because it gives us the names of Ruth's parents. This is how we piece together family trees. They were Richard Schaefer and Wilhelmina Heller. And Wilhelmina's nickname was Minnie. And Richard and Wilhelmina are your paternal great-grandparents. Have you ever heard those names before?
No.
Could you please turn the page? Chrissy, on the right is a list of passengers who arrived in the port of New York from Bremen, Germany. You ready for this? June 1st, 1885.
Wow.
That's the passenger list. Would you please read who was on that ship?
Wow. Johann Heller, age 34, occupation workman. Rosalia, age 32, babies, wife. Wilhelmina, age 3, child. The country which they are citizens, Germany. Number of pieces of luggage, 4.
That's the moment they stepped foot on the United States soil.
Wow.
June the 1st, 1885. Wow. And she arrived with her parents.
100 years later.
Yeah.
Wow.
Your great-great-grandparents were Johann and Rosalia Heller.
Oh, that's incredible.
Johann and Rosalia were both born in towns that are now in Poland. As we comb through the records that they left behind, we noticed something unusual. Rosalia had a brother named Trogot Franz, who's listed as being an oboist. And it seems that this was a family business. Indeed, documents indicate that at least 3 generations of Chrissy's ancestors were musicians.
Wow.
How do you think this history gets lost? How do you think people forget what their ancestors did?
I would have definitely thought, like, I do feel like our family has a musical connection with vocals. I always felt like our family always been in choirs and things, but would have never guessed instruments, especially with how terrible I am at instruments. But yeah, I don't know how it would get lost, but I also don't know how you would find it because it's been so gone forever.
As it turns out, there was a great deal more to learn about the Franz family. Not only were they musicians, they also appear to have lived nomadic lives, traveling in mostly rural areas. And it seems that several of them were illiterate, which was surprising because Prussia had compulsory education laws at the time. At first, we didn't know what to make of all this. But then we realized that Chrissy's ancestors belonged to an ancient European community called the Sinti, and thus were part of a very specific minority group known as the Romani, or Roma people, a group once denigrated as gypsies. They're traditionally itinerant people who lived all over Europe for centuries, and you are part Roma.
Wow, that's so cool.
What's it like to see that?
I love it.
These are your people. That's why they were moving around so much. That's why they were illiterate.
Wow.
And guess what? It was rough to be a Roma. For centuries, they were discriminated against, and they were even persecuted, just like the Jews were in Europe. They spoke their own language, which is based on Sanskrit, which is the classical language of India.
Wow, Sanskrit?
Yeah, and generally they lived among themselves on the outskirts of larger communities or pursued an itinerant trade within those communities, such as being a musician. They traveled often, usually with families, and they were living constantly on the edge. So do you think this is one of the reasons Rosalia and Johann moved to America, to escape all the persecution for her people?
Yeah, of course. I just, It's so unreal.
What's it like to learn this story?
It's amazing. It's beautiful to be able to tell my kids now at such a young age for them what I spent my whole life not knowing is really cool.
Oh, that's great.
This has been so special.
Discovering our ancestors can change our lives, helping us to understand more fully who we are, where we came from, and how we're all connected to a much larger world. To see more incredible family history stories, click here. And thank you for watching.